should have gone through a public hearing before.
It's really up to the NTC commissioner to come up with points, no? Yung may public hearing yan and things like that. In fact, ABS-CBN can object on granting it.
One media law expert is flagging the abrupt transfer of ABS-CBN frequencies to a firm linked to the Villar Group, saying it may have implications in this year's elections.
Para siyang isang midnight appointment na malapit nang matapos yung administration, bigyan lang magbibigay siya ng ano-anong frequencies at kung ano-anong pabor sa kanyang mga kaalyado.
Many are questioning the takeover of ABS-CBN's frequencies by parties with connections to President Duterte. What was the process done by the National Telecommunications Commission to grant these frequencies, and what will this mean for media freedom in the Philippines? We discuss in this episode of The Chiefs. Welcome to this edition of The Chiefs. Ako po si Robbie Alampay, with us online in Manila in the Philippine Star offices, Ami Pamintuan, and with me here in the studio in Mandaluyong, Ed Lingao of One News. Chiefs, good evening.
Happy Thursday.
Good evening.
Ami, before anything else, medyo may late developing story dito sa COMELEC with Commissioner Guas. I presume Philippine Star has discovered.
Yes, binabantayan nga namin eh. Binabantayan natin na nag-vote. Well, we know that Commissioner Guanzon has revealed na she voted for disqualification of Bongbong Marcos, and she's worried na iniintay ng kanyang division na mag-retire siya bago sila magbotohan. So anyway, we're waiting for, so far, mom is the word from COMELEC.
Kailan ba siya magre-retire, Ed?
February 2, that's Wednesday next week. Sabay-sabay silang tatlo ni Commissioner Antonio Co at ni Chairman Abbas.
Oo nga.
Typically kasi February 2 talagang retirement ng COMELEC commissioners eh.
But linawin ko lang, so she's saying na if she's officially retired, pagkatapos tsaka ilalabas yung resolution.
Baka hindi na bilangan yung boto niya because she's no longer part of the COMELEC.
Okay. Then I guess, Ami, one question is, when she says, I voted, so I presume sinabit niya na to some office, is that a vote?
Yun ang hindi natin alam yung process sa COMELEC. Pero sabi niya, alam ng buong COMELEC na yun ang boto niya.
Yeah. Also kasi, the fact is that there is already a ponente. In this case, I think it is Amelie, I forget her last name she was appointed in 2018 or 2020 by President Duterte. So she's already designated as ponente. So I suppose in that case, baka nagbotohan na sila. Kasi may ponente na, meaning siya yung majority vote.
Yes, but in the meantime, Commissioner Guanzon is insinuating na merong outside intervention by certain influential persons. So,
Politician daw. Yeah, to quote from the Rappler story, politician daw, although she did not name that person. Pero the plot therefore thickens. Buti kayo, tatawid ka lang ng kalsada, nasa COMELEC ka na
Linawin lang po natin, this specifically pertains to the petition before the first division.
The first division to disqualify Bongbong Marcos. The earlier decision by the other division, the second division, is for the cancellation
of the COC.
The COC, which is a different thing altogether. At yun, napag-desisyon na to reject the petition.
Okay.
So ito lang inintay.
Sige. Well, anyway, kailangan pa natin bantayan yan.
Abangan ang susunod na kabanata.
And one more piece of news, Ed, meron na lang Taliano Gold. Totoo pala.
Ay, hindi ako nabigyan.
Hindi ka nabigyan. Pero pwede ka magpuntang Lazada. Pwede yung mabili.
Hinahanap ko nga, nabalita ako, may ganun to. Meron nga, hindi ko mahanap
Binalita namin kanina sa big story. It's not real gold, of course.
Yeah, it's soap.
It's whitening soap.
But nung hinahanap ko last week, hindi ko mahanap. Baka naubusan.
Pero mas mabilis pa rin daw malusaw yung totoong Taliano Gold sa YouTube.
Pero yung Italiano Gold, may documentaries na sila.
May certification, yung soap. Genuine. Sige. Diretso na po tayo sa pag-uusapan natin. Good evening and welcome to the Chiefs. Kasama po natin Professor Marichu Lambino of the College of Mass Communications of the University of the Philippines and Mr. Vergel Santos of the Center for Media Freedom and Responsibility. Professors, Welcome to the Chiefs. Long
Good evening
time.
po.
Good evening po.
Hi.
Professor
Hi.
Professor Lambino, let me start with you kasi kanina nga dito sa soundbites natin, you liken this to a midnight appointment, as you said. For everybody who's not caught up, and even for those who are caught up, I mean, it's still a very technical matter on many levels, legal, technical, and so on. Give us the 1-minute version of how the Villars got to this, and was there anything necessarily illegal or at the very least improper in that process?
1-minute version. 16 years ago, there was a company called Advanced Media Broadcast System, and they had an application for a digital TV 16 years ago. This was never acted upon, and then they started to lose money during the pandemic, and then all of a sudden, the Villar family purchased the Advanced Media Broadcast System through Planet Cable. So now, in 2021, the Villar family owned through Planet Cable Advanced Media Broadcasting System. And then the 16-year-old application for digital TV was revived. And then there was an order dated January 5. The ban for grant of frequencies and franchises and permits and certificates is January 9,
January 9,
which was
the election period.
3 working days. 3 working days after that. So it was dated January 5. A certificate of public convenience was granted to Advanced Media, and it was for digital. It was for digital TV. I have a copy of the order here. The order was based on an application for digital TV, and the grant was for digital TV. That is January 6th. We don't know what the date of the real release was, but it was dated January 6th. All of a sudden, a provisional permit to operate the biggest free TV channel, analog Channel 2, was given to Advanced Media, owned now by Planet Cable. That was not covered by the certificate of convenience, which was dated January 5, because the certificate of convenience is on digital TV. So that taints the entire process. Why would you all of a sudden add on or annex the biggest free TV analog Channel 2 to a digital grant?
Okay.
That would have required a separate
Medyo nahihirapan tayo sa pasensya na po, Professor Lambino. We'll have to cut Professor Lambino at this point. Medyo ano, no?
Medyo baka hindi nabigyan ng permit ng NTC yung frequency.
Akala ko yung sumunod.
Baka nagdadaan sa NTC signal, oo. Very help us out here. Kaya bang complete the sentence? What in a nutshell was Professor Lambino trying to say?
Well, Professor Lambino has been laying out the details of the arrangements, you know, how the Villars came to their franchise. But ako kasi, I look at all this as a running plot, no, a scheme that began when Duterte started going after ABS-CBN and threatened to close it. Doon nag-umpisa yan, ano? It's all part of a plot. And if at all hindi natin alam na yan pala ay ibibigay doon sa mga Villar and to Kibuloy, that is not at all surprising considering the close symbiotic relationship between those two new franchises and Duterte. I have no doubt that the grant came as anything other than a favor, knowing very well that the Villars have pledged their support for Duterte all through his term. In fact,
Duterte has always had a sure vote in Senator Villar, and apart from that, has another Villar in his cabinet. Oh, no, two actually, because the wife is Undersecretary of Justice. Now, how close can you get to Mr. Duterte? And Kibuloy, for his part, I mean, the relationship goes even much further. As far back as the mayoral days of Duterte in Davao City, where Pastor Kibuloy, Kibuloy's church is based, you know, and that he has always been the spiritual advisor of the president. Not only that, I think the closeness of Pastor Kibuloy and Mr. Duterte is more easily understood when measured in material terms. Kibuloy sharing his jet with the president until the president got his own, two jets in fact, one for the office of the president and one for the armed forces, of which he is commander-in-chief. So the relationships, walang bago eh. Walang nakakabigla. No?
Yes, sir. Pero, sir, I
So
was
sa
wondering,
akin, scheme.
is there anything here that can be questioned legally doon sa pag-grant ng frequencies? Kasi I suppose pinoint out na kanina ni Attorney Lambino na dated January 5 yung order, pero January 9 yung ban for the granting of permits. So they skipped it by 4 days. They skipped it by 4 days. That's one. The other one is
4 days na.
The other one is that na as far as NTC is concerned, and this is what they keep saying, there's a free frequency, there's an applicant, it's within their power and their jurisdiction to grant it.
If you ask me, mas mahirap na gusot na idiretso nila eh, ang dami-dami eh. Through this term, maraming ang tingin natin eh palso, na nidiretso nila titunuloy din. Hindi ba? Napakarami niyan eh. So what is another one of those? So I suppose, pagka gustong brasuhin niya, babrasuhin niya. Brasuhan naman talaga eh. That is yun ang kalakaran of the times. Beginning from the incarceration of Senator Laila de Lima on implausible charges, the coup against Sereno, the burial of Marcos, the acquittal of a number of Duterte allies. Marami naman yan eh, no? So again, hindi ka magtataka kung pwede nilang diretsuhin yan in their own ways. So ang sa akin is that mula doon nakita mo talaga yung ang binabanatan ay press freedom eh. Kasi you cannot expect, do you really think you can expect a dollar millionaire like Manny Villar to countenance, you know, people like us, you know, practicing freedom in the way that we do? Are you really that Pastor Kibuloy would be endearing ourselves to him if we do not proclaim our disbelief that he is the appointed Son of God? May mga problema yan. So, ang sa akin is freedom.
Burhel, reforms will depend, of course, on the results of the elections in May. And at this moment, depending on the disqualification case result, ang frontrunner is still Bongbong Marcos, no? What do you see for the media environment in case he becomes president?
Walang magbabago dyan. Ang problema dyan kay Marcos, let us see what Bongbong Marcos represents. Bongbong Marcos represents untruth, represents plunder, represents martial law. So what can you expect of this boy? No?
He's saying version 2 na daw siya ng kanyang tatay eh. It's a different it's a different fruit falling from a different tree. Is that what we're saying?
maliwanag, ayaw nga pa-interview kung hindi kanya yung interviewer eh. Hindi ba? So, doon lang makikita mo na kung anong klaseng media ang papayagan niyang si Bongbong Marcos pag yan ang naging presidente. Actually, kaya nga sinasabi ko itong eleksyon na to, hindi pinag-uusapan ng plataforma rito dahil magpunta ka lang sa Quiapo, gagawa ka ng maayos na plataforma doon Pinag-uusapan dito is character and track record At ito maliwanag sa mga sa mga kandidato ngayon especially in Marcos's case. Diba? So, ang nakakatakot talaga yung kung anong mangyayari pag meron kang kamukha ni Bongbong Marcos na magiging presidente na nanggaling sa term na Duterte na himself an authoritarian ruler at kasama ni Marcos. I think ito lang ito palabas lang ito yung medyo kunyari hindi nagkakaayos. That is again another difficult thing to imagine. That the daughter of the president running with Bongbong Marcos and Bongbong Marcos not saying eye to eye with Duterte. I mean, that is not very easy to buy.
Verhel, let me bring you back to the Villars and this frequency. Now, as a lot of people have said, that's just frequency. Malaking bagay yan, of course. Pinaglalabanan. But at the same time, everybody's saying, you have to have the content, you have to have the talent. It takes a lot to invest into to get that influence and that power. But all that said, what do you see can the Villars make of this, given that they have Cynthia Villar in the Senate, Mark Villar is running for Senate also. Manny Villar is well entrenched both in business and in politics, former Speaker of the House of Representatives.
Yes.
So what does that portend into the kind of media company that the Villars we would presume want to put up?
Well, in the first place, let us look at the quality of media practice today. Right now, people don't really know or have no idea or cannot determine who is a legitimate practitioner and who should do one. If this confusion persists, mamimili lang si Villar ng practitioner at lalagay niya sa kanyang sariling news organization. Pwede na. That will be his way of perpetuating this confusion of who are legitimate practitioners and who are not, perpetuate that for his own purposes. Kung ngayon lang nangyayari na wala pang kamukha ni Villar na mga may-ari ng media. Ngayon pa lang nangyayari na. Lalo na pagka nangyari yan na si Villar nagpatakbo na nga ng isang news organization himself. At pagkatapos si Bongbong Marcos ang naging presidente, yan ang sinasabi natin na that will reinforce the suspicion. The suspicion, the fear that we are up against an existential happenings.
Okay.
So nakakatakot talaga.
Okay, we're speaking with Verhel Santos of the Center for Media Freedom and Responsibility, and we will also try to get back Attorney Marichu Lambino when we come back. But Verhel, steady lang. We still have a few more questions. We just need to take a break. Please stay with us. The Chiefs will be right back.
welcome back to the Chiefs here on One News. And now joining us is, no, I'm sorry. We go back to our earlier guests from the Center for Media Freedom and Responsibility, Mr. Vergel Santos, and Professor Marichu Lambino of the College of Mass Communications. Can you hear us, Professor Lambino? I think you're muted.
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry.
There you go. Yeah, and Vergel still with us. But Vergel, let me ask you this first before you go to Professor Lambino. Well, Vergel, you do represent CMFR, the Center for Media Freedom and Responsibility in this.
I'm a trustee, yes.
Yes, sir. I'm wondering if there's any consensus or any agreement or any discussion among media, among journalists and media organizations as to how to handle the refusal of certain candidates to appear before media organizations that they consider to be biased.
Well, hindi pare-pareho. There are varied reactions. But if you ask me, there is an old trick in the business that is resorted to when you have such elusive interviewees, and they call it the stink bomb technique. The stink bomb technique is that which consists in exploding the most smelly issues being thrown at a candidate, hoping that this smell would drive him out of hiding. I don't know if we have done that. But if you ask me, if an interviewee refuses to be interviewed on subjects clearly of public interest, then news people will have to go to other subjects, to other sources, and to other interviewees, probably peripheral personages, and look at these issues from their collective perspective.
Yes, sir. But these are
even if.
Yes, sir. But these are people running for the presidency. I mean, do you therefore avoid them? Do you therefore go around them?
No, it's not avoiding them. It's not avoiding them. But it's not avoiding them. When they don't want to talk to you, you cannot do anything. Can you? Now, you will simply have to make determination on whether this is a subject that you can somehow persuade to say something or be interviewed by you. If you can't, what can you do? I mean, that by itself would reflect on his character as a candidate. I mean, that would reflect on his lack of understanding of the relationship between press and subject and news subject, and between freedom and rights and power. I mean, if you have a candidate such as that, I mean, you certainly would know what to do.
Okay. Professor Lambino, can you hear us?
Yeah.
Okay, kasi your video is still hanging. But anyway, if you can hear us, I'd like to go back to yeah, it's okay. I'd like to go back to AMBS. The frequencies granted to AMBS by the NTC. I'm wondering lang. Well, you did cite kanina several issues against the granting of the frequencies. Pero I'm wondering if any of these issues have legal backing, or whether these will stand up if it comes to a case in court. Can it be questioned legally?
Yes, because the law requires notice and hearing, and the notice and hearing was held upon an application for digital TV. The order was granted upon notice and hearing of a digital TV frequency. And the order itself says digital TV. The order itself says digital TV. The next day, they gave away the analog free TV channel, which is not included in the hearing, in the notice, and in the order. So that clearly is a violation of the executive order which created the NTC, which is based on a law, which is a presidential decree. So yes.
Are you planning to file any motion, any petition to question it?
Or who can file a petition? Can ABS-CBN
Yeah.
file a petition?
It should be a party in interest. In other words, a part.
Yes. Party.
The proper party would be a party in interest who would be who's interested in the frequency.
So ABS-CBN is okay, or an interested party?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, barely.
Wala talaga.
A party in interest who is interested in getting the frequency.
Yes.
Okay. And so it's not a final decision, no? It can be appealed.
Well, an interested party, preferably one with a franchise already. Like channel, like your station.
Okay.
Like your station, Channel 5. So,
Okay. Professor Lambino,
because when the
I'm afraid we really have technical problems. I'll go back to Verel.
notice stating that Channel 2 is up for grabs, and then the hearing would be held on that, and the party interested would participate in the hearing. That wasn't done.
Okay.
No
Verel,
hearing.
is there anything that can or should be done with regard to this issue of the frequencies?
I can stop my video.
Well, I would be interested to see someone who was standing ahead of the line when the Villars and Kibuloy came. I mean, I would want to see someone, because that would reflect an interest in the franchise and a position that could be argued.
Yeah.
In this case, someone interested and was probably ahead of the line that the Villars and Ibuloy jumped.
Yeah, and
Probably
then
that.
he would have legal standing to bring it to court. Then.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, probably that.
Okay. Well, Verhel Santos of the Center for Media Freedom and Responsibility. Sir, salamat po for joining us tonight. Also, Professor Marichu Lambino, I'm afraid we can't get her back anymore.
Thank you.
The net's really
Thanks,
bad.
guys.
But maraming salamat
Pleasure
for
and
joining us
duty.
tonight.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, and now joining us is former DICT Secretary Eliseo Rio. Sir, magandang gabi po at welcome back. It's been such a long time at may utang pa kayo sa akin na SIM card.
Welcome back, sir.
Tama ka dyan. Kaya nga ako'y napilitan na mag-appear dito. Kahit wala na ako sa gobyerno. Pangbayad na lang ng utang.
Sir, joke lang yun. Kayo naman. Sir, I'll take off from where Verhel and Professor Lambino left off. Sabi nga ni Verhel, it's interesting to find out who is standing next in line doon sa doon sa application. Ano man proseso diyan? Is it really a line or can somebody jump ahead and so on down the line? Kasi ito, 2006 yung application nila for digital, 'di ba? Ng AMBS.
Yes.
I don't know if they have any application for analog. So, where are they exactly in the line?
Well, to give a brief background, there are two laws that are concerned here. Of course, Act number 3846, and this was promulgated on November 11, 1931. Kaya Act wala pa, hindi pa tayo republic noon. And this is Act, well, it is for the regulation of public radio communication in the Philippines, where Congress is the only one that can give franchise,
Yes, sir.
And then, of course, later on, during the Marcos years, we have EO 546 that created the National Telecommunication Commission, and Section 14 created NTC, and Section 15 of that EO gave the functions, no? And one of it is to regulate and, of course, to award the frequencies, spectrum, that are, of course, owned by the Filipino
Yeah,
people.
by the
No?
public.
It's not supposed to be given to any company, only be awarded, and, of course, to the most qualified applicant. No?
Most qualified.
Okay, and of course we have now recently the digital terrestrial TV, where now analog frequencies that were awarded to broadcast stations, no? Which was very limited when we are using analog. Now with digital TV, we can have 7 stations that in analog, in the bandwidth that a analog broadcasting station used, we can put in, it can accommodate up to 7 digital TV. So, well, if ABS-CBN could get back or would have a new franchise, then it can still apply, no? Right now, of course, the
Sir, apply
analog
they can still apply for digital,
frequencies.
sir? Sorry, just to be clear on that. ABS can still apply for digital or analog?
Well, it can apply for frequencies to digital, no? Because analog
Wala na.
is wala na.
phase out na,
On 2023,
2023.
wala na tayong analog.
But linawin ko lang po yun. I mean, if you now start to look at ABS-CBN as a content provider and developer, is there any practical reason to actually seek a franchise when the digital technology now allows the ones with analog frequencies to just split it up into 7, if I'm getting that right? Why not just buy or lease one of those digital lines?
Yeah, ABS-CBN is right now operating, no? Without any franchise, without any frequency because of technology, no?
Yeah.
Technology now, take YouTube, for example, and Facebook, no? They have no franchise, they have no broadcast station, but they are raking in income much greater than, I think, the income of the Philippines, no?
Yeah.
This is, in fact, ABS-CBN is using this, and it could be, in fact, advantageous for ABS-CBN to, in other words, this is something that might even help ABS-CBN to be ahead of its competitor by going into content, no? Because when I was the ICT, in fact, when I was NTC commissioner, I already envisioned dividing content providers against infrastructure providers, no? For example, newspaper, no? Our law says that you have to be 100% Filipino to have newspaper or to have broadcast companies, no? But, you can have, our newspapers are printing their newspapers abroad, no? In Hong Kong, no? So infrastructure, in other words, the broadcast infrastructure like transmitters can be, in fact, it can be abroad. That's what is happening right now, no? The content providers can go into Facebook, they can go into social media to transmit. You don't need a broadcast station anymore to transmit now.
Pero ang question, Mr. Rio, is the process of awarding.
Okay.
It's si Professor Lambino na the application was for digital and they got an analog frequency. Is that okay? Okay lang yun?
Well,
Ano yung process for awarding?
Well, as per law, we are still on the analog configuration right now, no? And any available frequency can be, awarded to a qualified, in this case, broadcasting station. And since ABS-CBN lost those frequency when it was not able to renew its franchise, then it's available to anybody interested to get it, no? But of course, the question is, what procedure was used to give it to advanced media
AMPS.
broadcast systems, no? And well, that questions will crop up and can be, in other words, somebody who can challenge that in court, no?
But Secretary, is there precedent for that? And I guess the question is, legal ba yun to buy your place in line? Diba? For those of us na gustong pumila sa mga embassy for visa, dating gawin yan, di ba? You let somebody else line up, bibiling ko na lang yung pwesto mo. I mean, that's oversimplifying it. But if that's a fair analog to what happened here, is there precedent for that? And is that legally how it's perceived? That because I bought out that company, I am essentially now taking their place in line?
Well, actually, that has been happening not only in the broadcast company, even in the telecommunication. No? Globe bought Bayantel, Smart bought Digital and Pure, and they got the frequencies of these companies. No, so there are precedents really on companies buying companies to include their frequencies, and that's one thing that should be amended in our law, no? Because these frequencies, are owned by the people. So may nga nagsasabi nga kung sana binenta na lang sana ng ABS-CBN yung kumpanya nila, which was actually what President Duterte suggested, if you remember, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, they could have sold it, and the frequencies will, raise the price of their company. There is precedent to that.
Yes, sir.
Is there a particular procedure for awarding? Kasi sabi din ni Professor Lambino, dapat daw may consultations. No?
Yes. In fact, that is what we have been doing. When I was in NTC, there is a public hearing. We hear all views. No, in fact, when we awarded or when we came up with the third major telco player, the frequencies. In other words, we consulted the public on how to go about granting the frequencies for the third major player. No, frequencies in our country historically are awarded by beauty contest. No, in other words, NTC will judge who would be the most qualified. No, but sana we were already trying to come up with the auction. No, in other words, the one who can put in the money to make use of those frequencies. No, and then of course there must be that provisions, and we did that in the third telco. No, that they could not sell themselves. For if they do that, then we get back the frequencies. That is in the terms of reference before we awarded the frequencies to the third telco. Sana ganun din ang gagawin sana sa lahat, no? Because, parang commodity na ang frequencies eh. It should not be, no?
Pero
so
sir,
if the procedures are not followed, if the procedures are not followed, can it be legally challenged, yung award?
Well, it's not defined in the law, no? Nasa kwan talaga who is in charge of NTC or DICT na to kaya nga ang NTC I think got the opinion of the DOJ, no, in this particular case, and of course ang legal opinion was that they can do it, no, award it.
Yes,
Well, ang sabi ng DOJ hindi daw nila alam na it will be used in the case of ABS-CBN.
Well, that's beside the point. I think NTC interpreted the legal opinion of DOJ that they can do it with. In other words, these are the cases that we have to ask the NTC directly, no?
Yes, sir. Sir, you said,
on that.
sir, sabi niyo kailangan ng public consultations. From what you see ba, was there public consultation? I asked that kasi, eto muna sir, I read the order ng NTC Apparently they had some sort of consultation kasi may oppositor na nakaregister doon. There was only one oppositor. I don't know lang when that opposition was made. Was it made before the purchase of AMBS by Planet Cable in September 2021, or was it consultation made after? And does that make a difference? I mean, could the consultation have been done before the sale, and therefore dahil na-consulta na before the sale, kahit sinong bumili, wala nang kailangan consultation pa, o paano ho?
Well, I could not really answer that because, 2021, I was no longer.
Yes, sir. But as a matter of procedure, sir, how does it, or how should it go with the consultations?
I really am not updated on that, no. But these are questions that could be, part of any opposition, no? That can be made later on, or by anybody interested, no, to challenge the award.
Secretary Rio, beyond this current issue that we're talking about, I'm curious and intrigued by what you're sharing about the realities of digital technology at this point, including digital frequencies and so on. Now, as I appreciate and I understand it, we give congressional franchises pagka kailangan mo ng frequency precisely because of the finiteness of the frequencies. Hindi po ba?
Yes.
Digital technology diminishes the finiteness. It multiplies, doesn't make it infinite. I don't know. But it certainly is not as finite as before. I guess my question is, does the technology, or should the current technology change our discussions about the value of frequencies and, to that point, the need for congressional franchises?
Well, congressional franchise has been there since 1931, no? And I think we are now the only country in the world that gives franchises before we even award frequencies, no? In other words, Congress, it's a law, no, that Congress makes giving a franchise to a company, and it is signed by the president. And only after a company gets a congressional franchise, then it is the only time it will go to NTC to get the frequencies it needs, no? So ganyan po ang procedure sa atin. In other countries like US, direct kagad sila sa FCC, no? They don't need to go to Congress to get a franchise. So that is how we are now, no? And technology, as I've said, makes the efficient use of spectrum, no? But in this particular case, the whole spectrum of the analog channel was given to a new company, no? And this actually, when, in other words, had ABS-CBN retained its franchise, and come next year, 2023, then it has to opt whether it will retain the full bandwidth, no, for its analog and come up with 7 channels. But if they do that, then they have to pay the government 60 million per digital channel that they retain. So if they cannot, in other words, what will you do with 7 channels if you can only make money with 3 or 2, no? So these are things that the company must decide. And what they will not retain, then they have to, it becomes available for other stations to use.
So duting ko lang po yun, as you said, no, tayo na lang yung nagbibigay pa ng prangkisa bago. Why is that? Are we behind on why are we behind on that trend?
Well, actually, I think we are behind because we never amended or modernized the Act number 3846 since 1931. It's still the same law that we are applying up to now.
So considering the evolution of the technology, down the road you're seeing that one day we will no longer need congressional franchises for this industry.
Yes, because right now technology is showing us that, a private person can really broadcast, have as many subscribers as ABS-CBN, as long as he has the content, no, that people are interested in.
Yes,
But
sir.
in the meantime, the decision of the NPC can be challenged. You mentioned that as well.
Yes, yes. But it has to go now in other words, you can challenge. Well, you start with AMR, with NTC, and if you don't get that, then you go to the higher court, no? So that takes time. And of course,
Which is a higher court,
well, up to Supreme Court.
all the way to the Supreme Court.
Yes.
Oh.
Well, sir, I understand your point of content being king. Pero on the other hand, sir, kasi di ba, iba rin kasi iba rin yung business model and it's a smaller business model when you talk about going online like YouTube. Ibang-iba po yung business model doon. At iba rin yung viewers mo doon. And I suppose the experience that we've seen so far is that the revenue generated from that model is much, much smaller than free TV, where you have more people who have access and therefore you have more revenues. So
Yes, that's true. But free TV, you have a limited range, no? Up to about only 30 kilometers to
Yes,
about
sir.
50 kilometers, depending on the height of your tower. No?
yes, sir. Well, which brings me to my question. Assuming that ABS, if ever ABS-CBN gets granted a franchise in the next administration, wala na siyang pupuntang analog channel kasi magsasara na nga by 2023. So it can still get easily, I suppose, a digital channel. Or does it have to fall in line all over again and mahaba ba ang pila?
Well, of course, there will be a line. No? In other words, once it gets a franchise, then that is the prerequisite as per our present procedure to get the frequencies. No? And then it has to, in other words, it doesn't really have to get its original frequencies. No?
Yes,
Because
sir.
any frequencies will work for that matter.
Yes, sir. Pero mahaba ba, sir, ang pila? Kasi ayasat kasi itong AMBS, 2006 pa yung application niya at na-approve siya ng 2022 January 5.
Well, because basically, the analog frequency, wala na, ubus na talaga sa Metro Manila. No? You have to go to the province already to operate on those analog frequencies. So pag pumunta ka sa Metro Manila, wala ka ng analog frequency na makuha.
Yes, sir.
But that will change. That will change as soon as we go to digital terrestrial TV.
Yes, sir. I mean, sir, digital frequencies. Is there a long line for digital frequencies at this point? Again nga, going back to that example na 2006 pa yung application ng AMBS pero 2022 siya na-approve. The application for digital frequencies.
Yeah, basically because wala pa tayo sa digital 2023 pa ma-approve. No? So that I think explains the reason bakit may lag. No? It's not, I think, the long line, but actually because we will only have digital TV on 2023. That's why they have to wait.
Yun po ba, mabilis na po, 2023, sigurado na po ba yun? O wala nang atrasan nyo? Because this was originally 2015.
Yes, wala nang atrasan yun. No? In fact, that I was still the ICT acting secretary when I questioned bakit kailangan pa. Well, one of the reasons, of course, lack of the TV sets, no, that can receive digital TV. So, yung mga manufacturer were the one who actually requested to postpone it to 2023. By that time, all of our TV sets will be digital terrestrial TV. They can support that.
Balikan ko lang yung tanong ko, sir, last na. Okay lang ba yung nag-apply ka for a digital, and then you get an analog frequency?
Well, because it's available. By law, if something is available and you are deemed to be the most qualified, it can be given to you, no?
So you can easily switch your application, that's what you're saying?
Yes, yes. Kasi ang frequency ngayon is still analog when awarded, no? Until we shift to parang noon ang analogy rito does not involve frequency, no? But when we shifted from black and white to color TV, no? Parang ganyan ang mangyayari, no? Kasi kailangan muna may mga colored TV available na affordable, no, for almost everyone. So kaya yung shift ay from black and white to color TV was on that, no. Pero iba naman itong digital from analog, no. But it needs the television equipment so that you can receive digital transmission.
Okay. Secretary Rio, it was a long time before we saw you again, and we're really very happy to see you. Pero I'll ask this one final question by way also of sisingilin ko yung utang nyo kay Ed. Now, since you left, we have a third telco now. This is genuinely your legacy, part of your legacy. We have transportability even in phone numbers. But notwithstanding all of that, I mean, frankly, everything that we've been promised, di ba, na better service, babagsak ang mga presyo, there's more competition and so on. There have been some gains, some benefits, but all in all, people don't really feel like, was this really a game changer? I guess ang question ko po sa inyo ngayon is, now that you're looking at everything in place, are we just waiting for market forces to kick in, o meron pa po ba tayong inaantay na missing piece for the dynamism of competition to really kick in?
Well, actually, implementation ang ROB, ang problema natin, no? Humility aside, that I've been with the ICT, we could have the improvement that I promised, no? I personally promised our people. The problema, wala na ako eh. I was, eased out of the ICT.
Okay, sir. Well, you're always welcome here.
And when you come back, pag-uusapan po natin yun. Uungkatin natin yun.
Well, as everybody, let's see what the next administration will be.
Sige pa.
Ingat, sir. Always good to see you again.
Ingat din kayo. Thank you very much.
Very good to see you, sir. Maraming salamat.
Yeah, my pleasure also. Good evening.
That's all for this edition of the Chiefs. We hope what was discussed here will keep the conversation going. Before we go, a reminder to our viewers, mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. I'm Robbie Alampay.
I'm Ami Pamintuan of the Philippine Star.
I'm Ed Lingao, and we are One News.